Hi, this is DJ Mondo. If you've never met Chris Marshall, you're certainly missing a treat. Competitive fiddler and philosopher, he's a welcome fixture in the Chicago music and art scene. Recently, I spoke with him about fiddling, philosophy, music, and outer space. And after you watch this, go check out his YouTube channel and the Out of the Blue series at the link below.
I bought this violin in 5 pieces at an auction in Seattle. It wasn't blue, and it had a big hole here inside. The top was completely off, and the top was in 2 pieces. And the top had a big burn mark in the center here. And I bought it at Folk Life in Seattle, the Sandy Bradley auction is a yearly, or used to be when I lived there, a yearly thing. And nobody wanted it because it was in pieces. But other than being all broken, it was a good fiddle. And I bought it for real cheap, and I tried to figure out how did it was brand new, it was unused. Like, how did it get so damaged, being brand new? How did it have all these things happen to it? Broken, the top taken off, the top broken in half, the top of the burn mark, and the side with a hole. And my conclusion was that somebody had decided they wanted to learn violin repair. So they bought a perfectly good brand new violin and broke it in 5 different ways. And then they decided they didn't want to learn violin repair, and they moved on to something else, like culinary arts or something like that. They decided to make a souffle instead. And so I bought it, and I put it all together, and I sanded down this area, and I painted the top blue, but I didn't paint the back. And it's painted with spray paint, which is really thin, so you can still see the grain. So the paint is an extremely thin paint, so it doesn't mess up the tone. And I had a quarter-inch jack here, but the wood was too thin to hold the jack on, so I just connected the cable straight to the pickup, so there's no jack in between. So I put it all together, and I've been playing it ever since. But then these 2 gems came into my life. So I have the red gem and the blue gem. And my grandfather was a magician, and I got this ring from him through a mysterious method. And I noticed when I play right-handed, I can feel this energy. I could always feel this energy coming towards me. And I never can understand why other people couldn't feel it. I realized for other people to feel it, I have to turn it around the other way. Because I was kind of shooting myself with my own ray gun at the time, and I didn't realize that I was holding it backwards. I would say it came to me. I didn't come to it. Because I live in this building, and I kind of live in this. I've discovered that there's a gray zone between black and white. There's black and white fiction and nonfiction. There's something that's real, like let's say our Earth. And then there's something that's fictional, let's say Krypton, where Superman is from. So Superman is a story dreamt up by a couple guys. They wrote it. he's from Kryptonite. I mean, he's from Krypton, and there's kryptonite and all that stuff. But that's fiction, and we live in the non-fiction world. Well, it turns out there's this middle zone, which is the middle zone between fiction and non-fiction, kind of a gray area. And I discovered that by accident because I live in a place called Magic Ink. And I was going to go to a harmony workshop one time. And so, with no connection to here at all. So I went to the airport, I got on a plane, I flew into Boston, I rented a car, I drove to this harmony workshop. And it was in a house with a bunch of books. And there on the bedside table was a book called Magic Ink, right? So I left from Magic Ink, went somewhere completely disconnected from Magic Ink, nothing to do with magic whatsoever, and there on the table was a book that said Magic Ink. Very, very strange, because of all they didn't know where I was coming from. This was not planned by them. This was just a pure coincidence, because I didn't tell them I was coming from Magic Ink. So by pure coincidence, this book is on the table, Magic Ink. And Magic Ink is a science fiction book by Robert Heinlein. Magic Ink in the book is a place where you go to hire people to go into the kind of an astral realm. They don't call it the astral realm, but it's this astral realm-like place, which is like a between the worlds type place, and you hire somebody to go in there and do work for you, so it'll help your business on Earth. Very, very strange. And so that was my first introduction to the fact that there is this in-between world, in between fact and fiction. And I wouldn't say I discovered it. I would say I discovered that I was already in it, right? And so and that kind of attaches with this idea of Sirius, the star, Sirius A and B. And there's speculation that there's a Sirius C. And currently it's only speculation. But using my imagination, now what is the imagination? The imagination is right in this gray in-between world. Because it's something you imagine fact or fiction, right? Somebody imagined this. My cell phone was in somebody's imagination before it entered the world. Now it's real. 40 years ago, it was just something somebody was thinking about. So the imagination is the spring, the source of this in-between gray fact versus fiction world. But using my imagination, you think, okay, let's say Sirius C could be a planet like Earth. And planets like Earth are made of similar stuff, which means that iron, which is a major component in steel, would exist on that planet too. So that means that without having to advance to the point of interstellar communication, they can probably already be advanced to the point of making steel string. And so the challenge of making music on a steel string can be interplanetary, because the Sirius star system is within our galaxy. So if we communicate with Sirius, we're talking to another planet within our galaxy. So it could be interplanetary, but it could also be intergalactic. Which leads me to the conclusion that there is an intergalactic. It leads me to the conclusion that this skill of manipulating a steel string with a horse's tail, which is what this is not just an earthly skill, but an interplanetary and potentially even intergalactic skill, which leads to the conclusion that there could be an intergalactic and or interplanetary fiddling contest. So I'm taking this fiddle that I bought in pieces and built myself, put together, and I'm preparing for the intergalactic. Well, right now I'm just preparing for the interplanetary contest. whoever wins the interplanetary contest goes on to the intergalactic. You meet the champion from the Andromeda galaxy for a showdown, a hoedown showdown. But in order to prepare, you have to use both sides of your brain. So we on Earth currently are stuck on a brain half. We're stuck on our analytical brain half. And the solution is to take your other side of your brain to bring it into play. So left-handed violin playing is the solution for everything that ails our Earth at this time. And the red of the ring and the blue of the gem, the two gems combine sonically to create a purple haze in the astral realm. So I have my, one of the bands I'm in, I call Chris Marshall and the Chris Marshall Dancers. People always ask me, well, where are the dancers? You know, because I show up and it's just me. Or it might be me and a couple backing musicians. The dancers are the dancers who come from the astral realm to come watch. This purple haze gets in your brain. Things won't seem the same. You act funny, you don't know why. It's the purple haze created by the combination of the red and blue gems. But you can't see it. It doesn't look purple. It sounds purple. Blue is a video magazine about Neo-Swedenborgianism, and I am the progenitor of Neo-Swedenborgianism. And what Neo-Swedenborgianism is, or sometimes I abbreviate it to Neo-Sweo. Now the concept is this guy Swedenborg, Emanuel Swedenborg, he was a scientist in the 1700s, and he started having visions of heaven and angels and all that. And the angels took him to heaven and hell, where he got tours of heaven and hell. And so he spent the last years of his life, many years, writing about heaven and hell and these tours that the angels took him on. And he was so confident that it was real that he never really spent any time trying to convince anybody that it was real. He just wrote about it. He said, you know, he's seen it, he knows it's real. But at the same time, the heaven and hells he saw mirrored his society, 1700s. So, which leads me to conclude that it was not actually a real place he was going to see. He was traveling within his subconscious. So his life, his society imprinted this thing on his mind, and when he went to experience it, it seemed vast and real to him. And so that tells us that we also live in a world, and we're in a society, and we're living a life which is imprinting experiences on our subconscious. So when we enter our subconscious, it will likewise seem real and vast and like heaven and hell. So the Neo-Swedenborgianism is like it's an approach to the subconscious, essentially, in which we are still our individual selves, and the size relationship is the same. So we still are like 6 feet tall, and Earth is still this big, and space is still that big in our mind, in our memories. And so there's a thing called the near-death experience that people have, and They claim to visit heaven. They claim to see grandma. They claim all this stuff. And the naysayers will say, well, it's not really real. Like, it doesn't exist outside of your mind. And that's what I'm agreeing with. But I'm saying it does exist inside your mind. It's like this place that you're bound to go to. You know, so your grandma's waiting for you, and my grandma's waiting for me. When you die, and your consciousness recedes into your subconsciousness. And it's a being part of the human physiology. It's also something that can be studied. Like, because there's the naysayers who think it's a waste of time to even talk about. But for me, it's just part of human physiology. And as part of human physiology, it's a valid subject of study. You can study it without looking at it mystically or supernaturally at all. And so that's part of what the Out of the Blue is about. Out of the Blue is also the music scene that I'm in and the art scene that I'm in. And so, because there's a situation happening now where people don't know what to think anymore. They're losing their faith, you know. But do you really want to lose your faith and become an absolute scientist? Does science have all the answers and religion have none of the answers? And so there's a big fat middle ground where both these things can exist at the same time. Basically, it's saying that it's taking heaven out of the religion's hands and putting it into science's hands and saying, well, it's still there. And now we can look at it scientifically instead of looking at it religiously.